Okay, welcome everybody to apps.com presents Getting Your Clients Ready for the Holidays. We will be talking about three applications today, three apps that are compatible with QuickBooks Online. We'll be talking about Square, Sync with Square is actually the official name. We'll talk about BigCommerce, a shopping cart platform, and QuickBooks Online point of sale powered by Revel. My name is Hector Garcia, and today is September the 24th. Uh, I apologize about those audio issues that we had to manually unmute all the panelists here, but I guess we're ready to go. About a little bit about me, I'm a CPA, work and live in Miami, Florida. I'm an advanced QuickBooks Pro advisor. I teach QuickBooks in my own classroom. That's kind of one of the things that I'm truly passionate about is teaching QuickBooks. And one of the things that we've grown over time is offering integration services, so helping the small businesses really connect their multiple avenues of operations to reduce the amount of data entry. So this is why I love to do this webinars for apps.com and for Intuit Academy. So at the end of this course, you'll be able to get a brief understanding of how the apps.com website works and some of the functionality of these e-commerce platforms, understand why they're there and why is it particularly important that we integrate them with QuickBooks to reduce the amount of double data entry and increase the accuracy on recording the transactions. But most importantly is identify the opportunity to identify a specific client that would benefit from the app, or if you have a client that is using the app, that you have the opportunity to consult with it and help with integration. Now, this is a CPE eligible webinar. In order to get your CPE certificate, you must write down the CPE keyword. The CPE keyword will be given to you towards the first half of the webinar. And towards the second half of the webinar, you will get a question, a polling question. You must answer it correctly in order to get your certificate. Your certificate will be emailed to you within 3 weeks. If for whatever reason you have issues with your emails and it's going straight to spam, make sure you add accountant_training at intuit.com into your approved sender list. You must keep copies for your records. Intuit is not going to have records for a year later or whatever. So get your CPE certificate and you save it. Now, I'll go ahead and copy and paste this link in the chat a little bit later on. Introduction to Apps is a webinar that I did probably about a year ago. And if you've never ever connected any sort of application into QuickBooks Online, I think it's important to understand the ecosystem and sort of the core thought behind putting that together. So I recommend that webinar. Now, quick introduction to apps, right? What's an app? In the context of QuickBooks, an app is an application designed to perform something that QuickBooks is not necessarily designed to do. In some cases, the apps will do similar things that QuickBooks can do, but in a different system. Now, why would that work that way? Well, because a different application or a third-party application tends to specialize on things that are not core accounting. In the case of today, we have an e-commerce platform which does a lot more than just accounting. Then we have a payment processing platform, and we have a point of sale system. So we have all sorts of diversity of things that are beyond core accounting functions. Now, the common denominator in apps and QuickBooks typically is the financial transaction, like the invoice amount, right? The amount being deposited to your bank, or the customer's name. And that's really what integration is to use that denominator to transfer the data and avoid double data entry. Now, some of these apps are platforms by themselves. In the case of BigCommerce, that's an entire platform. BigCommerce has its own apps shopping center per se, its own apps marketplace. And Square also has its own plethora of applications that it connects to. And POS, the QuickBooks Online POS, also has multiple applications it connects to. So a lot of these apps are not single function, they're platforms by themselves. Now, it is important to understand that these third parties make specialized software that QuickBooks just is not going to be built to do. I mean, QuickBooks, Intuit's vision for QuickBooks Online is to be the small business operating system. So it needs to be a platform in itself and needs to focus on core accounting. This is why the Intuit ecosystem is so important for third-party developers to make these apps complete any customer's operations. So the three apps that we'll talk about today: BigCommerce, e-commerce platform; Sync with Square, which is the connection between your payment processing on your mobile phone and QuickBooks Online; and QuickBooks Point of Sale powered by Revel Systems, which is a iPad-based, completely cloud-based point of sale system for retailers or restaurants. Now, let's talk about the holidays, quote unquote. The webinar's title is Get Your Clients Ready for the Holidays. And what do we mean about the holidays? What we're talking about is the busy season for retailers and e-commerce businesses. Now, for most retailers and e-commerce businesses, people are selling stuff to customers. The busy season or the holidays is November through January. So we have Thanksgiving, Black Friday after Thanksgiving, all the way to January, where everybody redeems their gift cards. Now, for a lot of small retailers, these 3 months add up to more than the rest of the 9 months combined. So, as an accounting professional, we can be great assets to this business if we can truly provide proactive support, either connecting it to multiple applications so that business owners can concentrate on managing their business, right? Not doing bookkeeping. Now, what are the areas of consulting that I feel accounting professionals or pro advisors can really help in? Specifically, if you have a small business that does not process credit cards currently, so that's an obvious choice. If you add Square, people will be taking a new sales, a whole new slew of clientele that doesn't just pay cash. Now, if they're using other payment providers that don't talk to QuickBooks, that means they're going through that painstaking process of having to manually reconcile their accounting. So it's strongly recommended that they work with a credit card payment system that talks to QuickBooks to reduce the amount of potential double data entry and reconciling pain. So that's the Square opportunity. Now, in terms of retailers, customer facing restaurants, adding or upgrading the point of sale system can increase the amount of transactions that get processed by minute by the hour, especially if the point of sale system is faster. It could also enhance the environment and the experience. In the case of point of sale powered by Revel, we're going to talk about the iPad experience and what that will look like in a store. And for e-commerce, for shopping carts, if a current client of yours has the opportunity to sell online, adding an e-commerce platform shopping cart is definitely a great opportunity, a little bit beyond what accounting professional does. But if they are in the market for an e-commerce platform, again, strongly recommend to focus on working on one that's easy to use and that can also talk to QuickBooks, again, to avoid that double data entry, making the integration painless, and having the businesses focus on selling, not on bookkeeping. Now, some of the e-commerce platforms are worth mentioning, and I tend to like mentioning competitors alike because it does help build a little bit of context. So some of the large shopping carts out there are BigCommerce, Shopify, Magneto, Evolution, 3D Cart, eBay. That could arguably be a whole system. Amazon, Pinnacle Cart. There's a whole bunch of them. Some talk to QuickBooks, some don't. Some need third-party software. In the case of BigCommerce, it's all built in. Now, merchant, right? We have Intuit QuickBooks Payments, right? That's for a lot of QuickBooks Online clients. That's sort of the go-to option. But Square, because it is so vastly popular and so easy to set up and so easy to get up and running, it's also become a real common use. And then there's also PayPal, Stripe, Flint, First Data, Authorize.net, and a whole bunch. Again, not all of these talk to QuickBooks. Some need third-party apps that you pay for, and some have built-in apps that integrate. For the sake of today, we're only going to be focusing on Square. And lastly, popular point-of-sale systems. There's QuickBooks Point of Sale powered by Revel, which is the iPad cloud-based system that we'll talk about towards the end. There's its own competitor in a non-iPad environment. There's the desktop point of sale system that it doesn't work with iPad. It works with regular desktop. Now, Square has a POS system, right, which we will not be talking about, but it's important to know. Square does have its own POS system. I don't know how that talks to QuickBooks yet. I haven't explored that yet. And Shopify POS has one, and there's all the other ones that you've probably seen when you go to a local store. Anyway, one of the applications that has nothing to do with the three that are featured today is WebGility, and they're not the only ones, but I think they're worth mentioning. Anytime you have a client that has multiple channels, so we have shopping cart, Amazon, eBay, we have shipping, we have multiple. It's also important to think about that maybe even WebGility could be a better choice. So instead of having BigCommerce talk to QuickBooks directly, have it go through WebGility because you want to manage the process a different way. So unfortunately, it's important to just kind of throw that in there, but it's not the core of what we're going to talk about. So BigCommerce. So I'm going to go through a few screenshots. BigCommerce in itself has its own apps marketplace where depending on what other systems you're using, you can connect it. In this case, this is the accounting portion, right? So we have QuickBooks and all the other competitors of Intuit that I won't mention. And there's other systems like Deer Inventory or other systems that manage inventory or manage processing outside of QuickBooks that can again connect into QuickBooks. So it's important to know that it has its own app store. Now, the one that you see that's free there with the QuickBooks logo, that application is the one that we'll be talking about, right? So there's no cost to connect BigCommerce with QuickBooks. Now, what are some of the features that BigCommerce has that I particularly looked at, and I wanted to kind of just give you the high level things that I liked about it is there's a lot of templates that work right off the bat, no design required. So for anyone getting into the shopping cart and the e-commerce world, it's really sort of a one-click thing. So it doesn't really take a lot of programming or any programming at all, and no design to build a shopping cart from scratch. I'm actually going to show you one that I built like in 2 minutes. The ability to connect multiple payment gateways, to me, it's kind of a big deal. A lot of other shopping cart systems have restrictions in terms of what payment gateways you can use. Obviously, because they're sort of connected with them, and that's part of the revenue process. But one thing I loved about BigCommerce is how open they were to multiple payment gateways, including Square, the one that we're going to cover today. Now, easy to use interface, getting up and running is really quick. And one thing I really liked was the integration with Avalara is seamless. So if you're processing retail sales in multiple states that you have Nexus in, and I don't want to get too technical into Nexus, that sort of thing, but if you have sales tax responsibilities in multiple states, you can connect with Avalara and use Avalara for that, which is the leading software or service company that deals with multi-state sales tax. Now, once you have orders processed through your shopping cart, you're going to see all the orders sort of sitting there in a pending report. And again, this is more of the shopping cart side than the QuickBooks side. And then as you ship them, right, or process payment or go through whatever scalable process you go to before you actually deliver the product for the client, you can click on that status button and switch it to whatever the next level is. Now, that is important for the integration piece because you actually tell BigCommerce doing the settings, you tell BigCommerce at what stage of the shipping process or the processing process I want the information to come into QuickBooks. So that's a very important piece. The other important piece about how the integration works is you have to choose what is going to happen when an order comes in. So once I sync my QuickBooks Online file, what is it that I want BigCommerce app to send to QuickBooks? Do I want it to send an invoice? Do I want it to send a sales receipt? Very important. Now, after this is decided, what transaction type is going to be sent, the other important piece is, do I want to create one customer in QuickBooks per customer in BigCommerce, right? Because every single sale will have a different customer. Or do I want just one consolidated customer because I don't want to clot my QBO file with a whole bunch of different customers. That's your choice. There are situations where you want that. There's situations where maybe you don't want that, right? So I love the fact that it gives you the choice, right? To me, choice is tops. Now, for payments in particular, you get to choose what accounts you want to sync them with. So if you want to send them all to undeposited funds, like I did in this particular case, you can do that. If you want to create other clearing accounts, like you have one for store credits and you have one for the testing portion of the gateway, you have one for PayPal, one for a different, and if you have more payment gateways, then it will show. So basically, you can have multiple clearing accounts for payments, or you can have just one, like on the positive funds, which is actually a very common case. Now, in the case of inventory, you can actually choose whether you want QuickBooks Online and BigCommerce to talk to each other about inventory levels or stock levels in this case. So if you are out of inventory, do you want BigCommerce to make the decision of not selling the product or back ordering the product? So that's kind of an important thing. I love the fact that you have that option. Now in this screen, this is where you can map some of the other accounts like a discount line or a gift card or a shipping line, and you get to choose where in your chart of accounts you want any of these items to hit. And then the order status filter, this is what I was mentioning before. You put a check mark on which order status you want it to be the approved order status in which you want BigCommerce to send into QuickBooks. So in the case of awaiting shipment, if you turn that off and you haven't shipped it yet, basically you're telling BigCommerce that you don't want the sales order in QuickBooks, the sales receipt in QuickBooks or the invoice until the product's actually shipped. So I actually love that level of control. Now, in terms of pricing, pricing is pretty straightforward, in my opinion. There's the standard product that comes with a lot of the options that are there, which is $29 a month. And then once you go a little bit higher in terms of needs and volume, it moves to the $79 a month fee. And if you go beyond that, it's going to be the enterprise custom price product. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get out of the PowerPoint and go into BigCommerce real quick. I just want to show you a demonstration of what this looks like. And then in a nutshell, it's very easy to use, right? So if you want to add a product, you click on the product button right there, and you click on view, and you get to see all the products that are in your shopping cart. In the case of this, I opted for all the samples that get built in automatically. So there's all my products, there's the pictures, there's the price. Very easy to add. You can import them from Excel, from CSV. You can manage their pricing and their different styles and stuff like that. Here, where it says orders, I'm going to click on view. It's what I was mentioning earlier. This is where I get to see all my orders, right? So whatever orders I have, they will show in there, and then I get to choose what I want to do with it. If I want to wait for fulfillment, or if I want to mark it shipped or whatever. And as I mentioned earlier, right, this is where you tell QuickBooks at what point you actually want the sync to come through. So that's kind of the basic order processing. I'm going to show you what the shopping cart looks like, and I promise you, I really didn't do much. This was a template, and the template was pretty much pre-built, and there's tons of templates based on different industries. And down here on the products, these are all the products that were added. So it's really as simple as adding a product, adding a picture. Now, I'm going to click on here. I'm going to click on choose options, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on add to shopping cart and pick the color, add to shopping cart. And this is sort of the customer experience. I go to proceed, checkout, and then I'll check out as a guest. And then I'll go ahead and put pre-fill some information in there. Let me put my information in here. I just kind of want to show you how this shows up in the system right after the order gets processed. And now we're sort of in a test environment, so it's going to ask me for credit card and stuff like that. But I'm going to go ahead and opt to do it in a different payment method. So I may not be able to process it because of the numbers, right? Because this will actually test it. But let me just double check that in the test environment it won't kick me out. But I doubt that unless I put a credit. Yeah, so there it is. So I do need to have complete credit card number in there. Let me go ahead and just copy and paste this one, and I could jump into it anyway without having to wait for the transaction to be processed. But worst case, okay, there's the order. So once I go back into my store, I'm gonna click here on orders and click on view, and this was the order that I just processed. I want to click on all orders, and I should see it right there. It came in. There's my order. So it's really no brainer. I mean, if you have a client that's truly fearing shopping cart, this is one of the easiest shopping carts to get up and running that I ever seen. So I really strongly recommend you look into that. It's a good product to talk about. So let me pull up the CPE keyword, and while the CPE keyword's up, I'll leave it for about a minute. I'll ask the other organizers that are helping me here if there's any particular questions that I could answer. So are there any questions for me? Okay. I guess not. No questions. No questions could be good questions. So the CPE keyword for today is Halloween. Go ahead and write that down, Halloween. That's going to show up towards the end of the webinar. We're going to have the polling question, and you have to answer that correctly in order to get your CPE certificate. So going once, going twice, Halloween is the CPE keyword. We're going to go ahead and go to the next application. So sync with Square. So Square is a payment gateway, right? Square is a payment gateway that got really popular because of the little dongles, the little credit card readers that get connected to the phone. And one of the things that Square, I believe it was a big attributor to its success, was the fact that it didn't really work like a traditional bank where you went to this whole credit scheme and stuff like that. So pretty much anybody that will set up a Square account gets approved immediately. So it really helped a lot of small businesses get up and running really quick. Now, in exchange, you can't really compare Square fees with the traditional banking fees for credit card processing. It is a little bit more expensive. However, the convenience and how easy it works, it actually makes up for it. Now, from the perspective of syncing it with QuickBooks, what is significant about the sync with Square and QuickBooks? First of all, it can import every transaction you process through Square into QuickBooks on a daily basis. If you are syncing sales receipts, including details like sales, taxes, tips, discounts, it would actually import all those separately. So it allows you to use items to report them separately. So in that case, you can have a chart of accounts where different items go to different GL accounts. Now, deposit matching is really important because once you download it with Square and you connect your bank, there is no more having to figure out what deposit is for what. That all happens pretty much behind the scenes, and I'll have a slide on that. Now, when you configure the Square app, it's going to ask you, what is your typical Square transaction income account? This is when items are not mapped and you select the income account. Where are the Square fees? So these are like the merchant fees, right? The bank fees. And then it goes into a Square fees account, which in the chart of accounts, you can just go enter it, double click on Square fees, and you're able to see all your Square fees for the month, for the period, whatever it happens to be. Where is my sales tax coming from Square going to be labeled? And that's important for you to process your sales tax forms at the end of the month or the quarter. And what is the payment method inside the sales receipt that is going to be selected? And these are all the default ones. You can choose them. I'm going to have a slide on this deposit bank for Square. First one that's in there. I'm going to have a slide on this one, so we'll get there soon. So once that's configured, then it's open for free flowing of information between Sync and QuickBooks Online. Now, how does pricing work? And I believe that this is Square's biggest advantage, and the reason why they grew at the speed they grew was because they were very upfront with the pricing. You know, most merchant processors have the scaled pricing, where if you swipe it, it's one rate, but if you swipe a personal card, it's a different rate than if you swipe a corporate card. But if the card has reward points, it's this whole complicated scheme, and most small business owners can't really understand what their true cost of processing credit cards is. So what Square did, I think strategically as a company, they weighted in all the upside and the downside of having a fixed rate. And I'm sure that Square figures out how to make money with that fixed rate. So that fixed rate of 2.75, I think, is what people like. Predictable, it's understandable. Now, one of the issues with a lot of merchant processors is that when they charge a fee, that fee gets netted from the deposit. Now, that's very typical of many merchant processors. So it does require to do some finagling inside of QuickBooks to negative out the fee to be able to square up your undeposited funds with the deposit. And Square does that. However, that's the beauty of the Sync with Square app, is that these fees will automatically be entered. Okay, they automatically be entered in the reconciliation. Now, if you manually key in the credit card because the credit card is not present, or because for whatever reason the magnet didn't work, you will have a different rate. It would be 3.5. It would be a lot higher of a rate, and 15 cents. Now, one thing I don't know, I actually don't use Square, if American Express it's involved in any of these rate fees. I assume that there's a different fee for American Express. I'll go ahead and ask my rep from Intuit, and I'll ask him to interrupt me at any time and give me a clarity around American Express if it happens to be a different rate than the one being shown. So for the time being, I'm not making the assertion that American Express is the same rate, but I'm also not making the assertion that it's an entirely different rate. Now, the credit card reader, that square shaped logo of Square credit card reader that you see there, it's really what made Square famous. It was not, I would want to say it was the first of its kind, but I think it was certainly when it came out, I don't know, 7 years ago, whatever the number is, whatever time frame Square's been in the market. What's been happening is anytime anyone has a piece of plastic attached to a phone where they're going to process a credit card, people associate it with the word Square. They say, oh, that's the Square thing, right? So even if it's Square or PayPal or Intuit payments, whatever it is. So I think Square did a great job at positioning themselves with the product, and also keeping it small. I think that's one of the things that people love about it. They keep it really small. Now, starting October of this year, the rules changed a little bit. PCI compliance, which is kind of the regulation that protects users from hackers stealing credit cards, stuff like that, have changed the rules a little bit. So there's a new product that's going to come out, I believe, next month or November, which is going to read the special chips on the cards. I don't have a picture of it yet because the website just didn't have it quite there yet. You're gonna start seeing a different type of reader coming out in the next couple of months. Now, the picture on the right is the Square POS system, which obviously competes with Revel, with QuickBooks POS, powered by Revel, which is the one I'm going to talk about in a little bit. However, not to be confused, right? This is Square as a company is not specializing on POS, so it is it's going to be easy to use and easy to integrate, and probably less expensive than the QuickBooks product, but it won't be as robust from integration and customization perspective. Again, I'm not here to talk about Square POS, but I think it's important to also know that they are in that business. Now, what does the typical process look like? Now, because if we're on a webinar, I can't really show you on the phone, but typically the way it works is you open the app, you will have the dongle right where the speaker goes. You swipe the credit card or hand key it in, right? You have the choice to hand key it in. Inside the Square app, you have different items, and I'm going to get into the importance of the items in a second. But inside the Square, we have items, and you can have generic items if you want. You don't have to necessarily have specific products for what you sell. So if you sell services and everything you sell is pretty much the same thing, then you can just have one generic item for everything, and you don't have to worry about having a menu like we have here. However, if you do choose to have all the items in there, there's a great advantage to that from a QuickBooks inventory sync perspective, and I talk about that in a second. So we choose all the products that we're going to sell, we process the credit card, and we hand the phone or the iPad to the customer, and then they sign with their finger, they add the tip, and they click done signing. Now, one of the things I love about Square, I really, really love about Square. I don't know how this happened, but at some point in time, I used Square for the first time, and I added my email address to get my receipt via email. And every time I go to any merchant that uses Square, I don't even ask for a receipt anymore. It magically comes into my email. I think my credit card and my email are tied on the back end with Square somehow. So I always get digital versions of all the emails, of all the receipts of everything that I purchased through Square. So I just wanted to say that I kind of like that. I really like that. Now, what does it look like when you sync through QuickBooks? So typically you will have a deposit, right? So you have the money coming in from the Square clearing account being deposited as a whole. So typically you process a payment, let's say for $20, and I process another payment for $40. I have $60, but these two don't come in separately. What happens is both get combined, and then whatever the fee is, the fee gets taken away, and then it gets all lumped together into one deposit, so it can match exactly how it comes into the bank and how it comes from Square. Now, the individual Square payments go through a pass-through account, like an undeposited funds account, and I'll have a slide on that next. However, the important thing is to reduce data entry. The important thing is to increase the speed in which we process payments. And when we connect the bank with online banking or bank feeds or whatever you want to call it through QuickBooks Online, these deposits all get automatically matched. So there's no need to manually choose, oh, this deposit is this customer and that customer, oh, that fee needs to be netted out. So no longer that is something piece of drama that we always have to deal with when dealing with credit card processors. Sync with Square takes care of all that. So, and so obviously very appreciative towards that, because anything that has to do with reducing data entry time and stuff like that is something that I would champion. Now, what does the typical workflow look like? So we process the payment in a mobile device. Then all these sales receipts go into QuickBooks into a sort of a clearing account called Deposit Bank for Square. Now, this is another bank account that has that name, but that's not really a bank account from a traditional brick and mortar sense. It's basically an account that holds all the payments and finally transfers the net amount, or what they call the batch on the traditional merchant processing, the batch of the entire day, net of the fee. And inside that transaction, the fee will show up as a negative deposit, which is an expense, and it will go into that Square fee expense account, and the net amount goes into the bank account. So that's all the process that goes behind the scenes and the role of Sync with Square in terms of reconciling that. All right, so real quick. So what if I'm managing inventory in QuickBooks Online? Or what if in QuickBooks Online, I have all these items, even if they're not inventory items, I have all these items, and depending on the item category, I may have different revenue accounts. So I have one sales account for, let's say, for alcohol, one for food, one for appetizers, whatever it happens to be. So if you actually want the sync from with Square to hit those individual items, it is necessary that the item in Square, it's labeled letter by letter, space by space, word by word, the same as QuickBooks Online. Now you can easily import or export the item list, and I'm going to show a quick demo of that. So let me go into the Square dashboard here, and I'm going to click on items. So this is what the back end of Square looks like. This is how we configure all of our items and stuff like that. So any items that I'm going to have in my phone application or my iPad application, they're going to come from here. Now I can create item by item. For example, let's say I want to create here beer as an item or something like that. I can create categories which will help me sort through them while I'm on the phone or on the app itself. I meant to say, and then we can have here the pricing, and you can have what's called the modifiers, which is whatever makes different styles or different sort of subcategories of that item that can be used in different scenarios. So I have an item called beer, but then I have maybe a large one or a small one. That's exactly what the typical prices and SKUs. That's exactly what they mean by that. Now here where it says start tracking item inventory, this is where you enable the inventory process. And the reason why that's something you enable, that's if you want Square to manage a little bit of light inventory and you want to be able to experience that inventory tracking from within the application. So if you do run out of something that while you're working with the application, it sort of shows. Now there's a couple of interesting things is um, I can set up sort of a portal for clients to order online, and that's what this whole process is to connect it with a Square online store. I don't really have time to get into it, but that's just important to know that that's available there. So as I create items and I see them there, this item, this is what is going to show on my phone. Now, if I have a big item list from QuickBooks Online, so let me go into QuickBooks Online here in a second, and it's very typical for people recently setting up their Square account. Is let's say, for example, this is my item list from QuickBooks Online. So as long as I can export this into a CSV format, so by clicking on that button there, I get a spreadsheet with it. Then I can use this spreadsheet and just export it into CSV to then come into Square and click on here where it says import export. So I would click there and click on import items, and then this will allow me to select my Excel file, my CSV file, and I can bring all the items in there. So as long as the lesson learned here is, as long as my QBO item list, whether it's inventory or not, and my Square item list, again, whether it's tracking inventory or not, as long as they're the same, then when the sync happens, those transactions will come in with the specific items. And for either inventory tracking or GL income account tracking, that becomes very helpful. All right. So that, in a nutshell, was Sync with Square. One of the common questions that we have is, how do I see my Square fees within QuickBooks Online? And because the app itself takes care of the mapping, the default account for the Square fees is just called Square fees, and it goes into an expense account. So if you go into the chart of accounts and you double click on Square fees or click on Run Report, you should be able to see a report, and you can actually organize those by month, by week, by quarter, or whatever. Okay, before I jump to QuickBooks Online Point of Sale powered by Revel, I want to ask my Intuit folks here and the people helping me with the webinar. You guys are muted at the moment. Are there any questions that you need me to answer? You want to unmute yourself and just kind of let me know. Okay, I guess no questions. All right, so let's go into QuickBooks Point of Sale powered by Revel Systems. Now, I need to make an extremely important disclaimer. QuickBooks Online Point of Sale. I don't know why they call it QuickBooks Point of Sale here, but I know it as QuickBooks Online Point of Sale. QuickBooks Point of Sale, that's exactly what it's called in the App Store, powered by Revel, is a partnership between Revel Systems and Intuit. And what they're trying to do with this partnership is take an existing, very popular POS system, 100% cloud-based, 100% iPad-based. It doesn't work with Android. It's an iPad application, 100% iPad-based, 100% cloud-based, and integrated tightly with QuickBooks Online. That way, for any clients that are working with QBO and that embrace cloud technologies, they don't have any desktop data in between anywhere. It's all 100% in the cloud. Now, Revel POS, not the QuickBooks version, the modified QuickBooks version, Revel talks to QuickBooks Desktop already. And QuickBooks Online POS, which is the QuickBooks branded POS system, is going to talk to QuickBooks Desktop as well, but that's in development. So for the time being, this is positioned as a QBO QuickBooks Online point of sale system. Now, quick preview, this is all iPad based, so it's kind of difficult to demonstrate live, but I'm going to use the screenshots to demonstrate it. In the iPad itself, this is what it looks like. And you can actually customize the look of the screen, but typically you're going to have the tally or what is going to print out at the end, the receipt, in the left side. And you're going to have all your amounts to charge and to tender on the right side. So as you add more items by clicking on that plus sign, you'll be able to add more items and more products into the ticket, and then finally to bring it up on the right side. So it's not a multi-screen system to process. It's all in a single screen. So that's one of the reasons why this is such a popular system, because it's extremely intuitive, like most of the iPad applications that Apple makes. So they kind of keep the theme. Now, this could be attached to a it could be attached to a bracket, so it's affixed to a counter or something like that, or it could be mobile, so you can actually be outdoors and process sales with the iPad not connected into anything. It does need to be online, right? That's 100% for sure. But that is really the principle. Now, one of the important pieces about it is that Rebel POS can track inventory in behalf of QuickBooks Online, or it can just not track inventory and you manage your inventory in QuickBooks Online. It can do either or. It's really easy to use. That's the reason why people like it, why it's so popular. But the most important piece is that Intuit um, has one of their best employees. His name is Jason, head of the integration from QuickBooks Online and POS, because the most important thing is that seamless accounting process. And it is still a working process. There's still a couple kinks and stuff that they want to get through, but they're probably 99.9% there. And we've implemented a couple of Revel POS systems already locally down here in Miami, and people are very, very happy, especially because of how easy the software is. Now, you can either, as I mentioned earlier, you can attach it to a bracket and get all the hardware that goes with it, a barcode scanner, a pin pad, the receipt printer, or you can be 100% mobile and have your credit card reader attached to it, and then you don't necessarily have to have it attached to a bracket. Of course, it's an iPad, right? So you're not going to just have it laying around because somebody can steal it. And that's kind of the purpose of having a bracket affixed to a counter, for example. Now, let's talk about some of the high level features just to differentiate QuickBooks Point of Sale powered by Revel with any other POS system. 100% iPad based, it's Wi Fi enabled. It can work with multiple merchants. The top ones are Mercury, First Data, WorldPay, PayPal, and Bitcoin. I know they're working on Intuit Merchant to also connect with it if it's not there already. It can do employee scheduling, timesheets, clock in, clock out. Typical POS systems do that, but it's important to know. It can do multi-store franchise management, so you can manage multiple stores in a single dashboard, per se, and do reports for multiple store. You have the choice to inventory management inside the POS system or not, right? You don't have to. It's customizable for any industry. It has a CRM module, so if you want to track loyalty programs, if you want to track, a customer hasn't come in 3 weeks or 3 months, and they usually come in every month, you can set up campaigns to send your clients back, and it has a built-in e-commerce platform. So Revel, together with QuickBooks, they have a built-in platform using an open source e-commerce system. But if you're working with Shopify, Magneto, or Xcart, those are the only shopping carts that integrate currently. you can also integrate with that. So you don't have to necessarily use their built-in e-commerce platform. Now I want to talk about some of the selling features. This is how Revel and Intuit together sell the product, and this is what the manufacturer feels is the differentiator in the marketplace. It's fully featured. That means it's not it's simple to use, but it's not simple from a internal complexity point of view. So it has a plethora of options and customizability. It can be accessed from anywhere, not just the management console. It's on the web, but since it's Wi-Fi enabled, it can be managed. It can be managed from anywhere, and it can be anywhere inside the store, which is great. It's always on, so if the internet goes down, there is an offline mode, which is huge because a lot of these offline systems tend to have an issue with that. So you can ring up sales even if the internet's down, and when the internet comes back up, it'll sync back in. Now, on the integration piece, that's the beauty of it. All the deposits and all the payments get integrated automatically, so you don't have to re-enter any of those things, and they update constantly. Update constantly and upgrade it. Now, some of the hardware add-ons that are good to know about is for example, in a store where there's produce or any type of product that you weigh in, you can add a scale to it, and the scale will actually play into the quantity configuration of a sale, right? So if you select, in this case, oranges or tangerines, whatever that is, and you weigh it, the system will multiply the cost per pound or whatever times the weight, and that will help you with the processing. Now, if you're in for example, a grocery store, you can get your barcode scanners. There are the Omni barcode scanners where you can just run the box through it, and it has like 20 different angles that it can read from. Other than the standard gun scanner, you can also use the handheld scanner, but this is a good example of the application and customizability of it. Now, this is what the management console looks like. And in this particular screen, this is where we can see all the employees, we can see who's clocked in, and we can manage timesheets from here. In terms of reporting, it's got real powerful reporting. You can customize the reports based on time frame, items, grouping of items. You can view the reports inside the iPad through the management console or through a regular browser, and that's actually really powerful. Now, pricing is important because people think about POS systems, they think about the expense. Revel, QuickBooks Point of Sale powered by Revel is by no means the least expensive one in the market, but it's also not the most expensive. That's kind of a good thing. Now, the hardware bundle, the traditional hardware bundle that comes with the iPad itself, it comes with the iPad, the stand, the card reader, the receipt printer, the large cash drawer, which is 16 by 16, a cable kit to connect it in. The hardware bundle is $2,000, $1,999. And there is a fee associated with it. It's a monthly fee of $119 a month. That includes the support from Revel, and includes, you have to pay a monthly fee because all the data is on the cloud. So somebody's servicing that. Now, for the starters, companies getting started, they can go with a hardware Revel Lite bundle. And I put iPad Air there, but I really meant to put iPad Mini, so I apologize. It comes with an iPad Mini, it comes with the stand, the receipt printer, the credit card, a smaller drawer, and it doesn't have the CRM module or the inventory module, but it has all the standard POS features, and that's a less expensive monthly fee of $49 a month. And you can add some of these modules like ordering and inventory and reservations and advanced reporting and loyalty or credit card for additional fee. And at some point, it just makes sense to just do the standard 119 that comes with everything. So it's kind of an important piece to think about. Now, a lot of I'm a reseller myself of different POS systems, and I work with QuickBooks Desktop POS, and I'm recently working with Revel POS as well. And one of the biggest feedback that we get from customers is, what do you mean we have to pay a monthly fee for a POS system? People tend to think, I just want to buy hardware and I don't want to pay a monthly fee. This is the issue. The data is on the cloud. It means somebody's servicing this data, somebody's maintaining it, somebody's backing it up, somebody's hosting it. On top of that, POS itself, doesn't matter if it's QuickBooks POS or Micros or Shopify or whatever, POS itself, it's a high maintenance ordeal, right? There's people have a lot of questions about how it works and about updating items. And if it goes down, you need somebody right away to fix it because it is a live retail environment. So a lot of these POS providers are moving to the service monthly fee based, just like their competitors, Shopify POS, Lightspeed, Shopkeep, Vend, Clover. They're all moving to the monthly fee. So this traditional $6,000 POS systems that you buy that you don't have to buy a monthly fee, they're pretty much dying, and they're reducing to a much more affordable upfront cost, but with the service fee attached to it. So it's a kind of an important piece. Now, I want to give you a general tip about comparing POS systems. Not talking about specifically QuickBooks POS or any other ones. Whenever you're shopping for a POS system, especially if you are consulting your client with it, these are the main questions I would have. Number one, does it integrate with multiple payment gateways? Or am I stuck with the provider's choice? Like in the case of Square POS, right? You don't get to choose a different payment gateway. You use Square, right? And if so, you want to know the rates, and you want to know all the rates, their scalable rates, their swipe rate, their hand key rate. That's all important. The other piece is the hardware standard or is it proprietary? In the case of Revel, I mean QuickBooks Point of Sale powered by Revel. Sorry, I keep saying Revel. QuickBooks Point of Sale powered by Revel, it comes with an iPad, right? So it's just an iPad. If you stop using the software, you get to keep the iPad. So that by no means is proprietary hardware. Now, the learning curve time is extremely important. How long will it take the admin people to configure it? How long will it take to import the items? How long will it take to integrate in the backend with QuickBooks, or does it even have integration? And of course, how long does it take for the users to get accustomed to the process? Now, do they specialize in particular industries? Are they customizable? Okay, that's a really important piece. Like Aloha POS, which is a competitor, they specialize on restaurants. Like Lightspeed, for example, they used to specialize on retail. I don't know if they do other specialties as well. So it's kind of important to know that. Do they have inventory management? Do they have training? QuickBooks Point of Sale powered by Revel has a great website with once you are part of it, it has hundreds of videos that kind of walk you through the process. And as I mentioned before, this is not the least expensive, but it is the most powerful when combining all these criteria that I mentioned above. Now, I know for a fact that Revel POS cannot, I mean, QuickBooks POS powered by Revel cannot be, I didn't do it any service by doing it so fast. So I usually don't give out my email like this, but in this particular case, if you have a question about QuickBooks POS powered by Revel, I will connect you with the right channel inside of Intuit. So you can write down my email and ask me any questions about that. I will personally figure out who in Intuit has the answer that you want and send it over to you. All right. So let me launch the polling question because we are close to the end of the webinar. And then after that, I'll talk about sort of the summary and what I feel is the opportunity. And while I have the polling question up, I'm going to go ahead and ask my fellows here into it that are helping me process the questions. Are there any questions for me that I should answer?
So this is Esther Garola from Intuit covering the Sync with Square app, and I had a couple of answers for previous questions I think you had or other people had. The first was that the Square point of sale solution is covered through the Sync with Square app, so there's no differentiation on the data that comes in, so it's just the payment data that comes over through any hardware. So that's one awesome clarification. The other is the Amex rate is the same as all other credit cards, so the 2.75 swipe rate. So I think that came up earlier.
Yes.
And then the last one was just that as you go through the setup, you associate your online banking bank account, and then that's how the match occurs. We don't transfer any funds, but QuickBooks automatically recognizes that you have a $5 deposit in your online banking, that you have a $5 in the net deposit item that's created, and then it matches for you. So those were just a few clarifications from earlier.
Okay, so contextually speaking, what you're saying is the fee gets entered into this clearing account, and then when you configure your matching, just make sure you configure any monies coming in from Square as a transfer from the clearing account to the bank, correct?
No, actually, what happens is we don't move any money for Square. What happens is Square will deposit a net amount, so it'll deposit the maybe a $10 sale minus $3 of fees.
Correct.
Therefore, you'll see $7 in your bank account.
Sure.
We just bring in the data associated with that, so we just bring in those details on the $10 of sales, the details on the fees and which transactions they're associated with, and those create new items, which it creates an invoice for the sales, expense item for the fees, and then the daily deposit that matches the $7 in your bank account. So we don't move any funds, but we
Sure.
just match all of the data to what shows in your online banking.
Sure, it makes total sense. So the automation happens with a combination of the sync and the online banking or the bank feeds.
Exactly. Yep. You'd connect your bank through the banking center, and then you'd also enable the app. Then all QuickBooks automatically does the match for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Was there any other questions from the other people here in the group? Okay, so on to the conclusions then. So the accountant or the consultant opportunity, in my opinion, are number one, if your clients are not processing credit cards currently and they want to use a mobile device, Square, it's inexpensive, easy to use, easy to integrate system. If your clients are not in online in terms of selling online in a shopping cart environment, BigCommerce provides easy to set up, easy to use a platform that can be integrated to QuickBooks Online now, which is great. And during the sync process or the integration process, you don't have to do double data entry from the perspective of entering the invoices again and the customers again, so it does that. And finally, Intuit QuickBooks Online has powered Revel systems to bring what we all consider to be the most powerful iPad cloud-based POS experience for retailers. Now, I strongly recommend that you partner with an Intuit reseller. It could be any Intuit reseller, and to recommend these solutions because Intuit resellers do get sort of a spiff on the back end when they sell it. So if you are out there recommending a POS system and you actually go through the selling process, why not talk to the reseller and obviously get some for yourself if you're in the business of sort of hardware and technology consulting. Otherwise, it's important that we know what's out there and the different options that are there for our clients. Now, there's another video that I did for Intuit Academy that covered sync with PayPal and Shopify. So I think it's good to know how PayPal works also in comparison to Square. I actually like both. I have a Square account and I have a PayPal account, and depending on the situation, I use one or the other. And Shopify also a great platform to compare with BigCommerce. And in the other video, I go into great detail about how Shopify works and help you determine which one you like better. Anyway, last thing is apps.com website. Strongly recommend if you haven't visited in a while, go to apps.com, check out all the new apps. I mean, the proliferation of apps that talk to QuickBooks is just incredible. And the opportunities to reduce double data entry, consult your clients on faster operations, and have QuickBooks be the core accounting system and have the other apps be the production systems. It's just a big opportunity out there for it's fun to be an accountant in today's age because it's not just about debits and credits anymore. It's about the technology and the relationships we build with our clients. So I strongly recommend you also check out the Resource Center, which talks about different videos, success stories. There's articles about how apps work, some that I wrote, some that some of my fellows wrote. So there are great things to consider. Now, don't forget, the CPE keyword was provided. The CPE certificates will come in within 3 weeks. And finally, I hope to see you in San Jose, November 2nd to the 4th at the QuickBooks Connect conference. I'll be there for sure. It's the biggest QuickBooks conference in the world, run by Intuit. Last year's was a blast. This year should be even better. So go to QuickBooksConnect.com or QBCon2015.com to find out more about it and register. And if you don't have any more questions or comments, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So are there any more questions or comments? Doesn't seem to be. Once again, thank you very much for attending apps.com and Intuit Academy for these three applications. And you guys have a wonderful day.